Welcome to the HubHive podcast. We're joined today by Jason Berkowitz, the founder of Break the Web, and we're here to nerd out on all things digital marketing, all the tactics, and what you can do to help your business, whether you're just starting or you already have a website. There's some great tactics within this podcast that will help you be able to grow and reach your target market, so I hope you enjoy it.
We help in-house marketing teams of D2C, B2C brands make SEO just a lot less annoying. It's complex, it's ambiguous, it's very jargon heavy, and a lot of times marketing teams just can't implement it. They don't know how, nor can they relay the information to leadership. So we help bridge that gap and make it easy for them to see success, but also measure success.
Okay, so when you say you help in-house marketing teams, these are probably a lot bigger clients that you work with that already have their own marketing in their budget, and then they just need somebody that understands the techniques that can help augment what they're doing?
Yeah, we do work with marketing teams as little as just one person on the marketing team.
Okay.
As large as what could be 30 people on the marketing team.
Wow.
We don't go on like the really large enterprise level because then it's really hard to get things done. There's too many hands in the pot.
How many people would be on a marketing team of an enterprise if 30 people that seems like a lot of people.
That is also still a lot of people, but then you got these brands that have hundreds and thousands of people, like the S&P type brands and the Inc. 500 type brands where they have thousands of people, maybe hundreds on a marketing team, and getting them all to collaborate together is never easy.
So what are some of the tactics that you use for your clients, the things that they're not comfortable with, that they work with you to kind of augment that?
Yeah, I think the hardest part with the nature of SEO is that it's very algorithmic based. And there really is no like proven, you do this, you get exactly this back. So the benefit of having, whether it's a specialist, somebody in-house or an agency, they have years of experience with a proven framework that they know works really well. And that's where we help them with implementing that framework inside of their business in all the different facets related to SEO, which on a super broad level can be just categorized into two main buckets, on-page SEO and off-page SEO.
Yeah.
So things taking place on your website, like the content, the structure, titles, the intent, how things interlink. And then off-page SEO, which is pretty much mentions around the web, linking back to your website to signal trust. So we have your website for relevance plus trust equals SEO.
Yeah, and that off-page stuff can be very cumbersome too. So how do you like develop relationships with other people that want to link back to you? Or, sometimes the easy tactics are the least impactful tactics too, that somebody says, we'll get you featured on these like 20 websites, right? And then they do that, it's there, but it doesn't move the needle at all. And so, what we've found, like we do a lot of outreach and you really have to help them like almost say, here are 3 titles in line with the content that you have that I think I could offer. But you almost have to like reach out to 100 to get 3 or 4 to actually say yes, right? So what are your tactics with some of that off-page stuff?
SEOs have ruined it for everyone. Even people who are just trying to do regular PR, SEOs have ruined the whole, just outreach and pitching. It has become significantly harder. We've built tons of relationships over the last decade, which helps significantly. But also aiming to give value to these publications is kind of the way we go about things. Whether it's, hey, we have some unique data that we've collected with our client. This can be really valuable for your readers. There's one angle of getting into the door. Like you just mentioned, hey, here's some topic ideas that would probably resonate with your audience. You haven't posted in a while. Maybe you have bandwidth issues related to posting content. We can help you with that. That's more like traditional guest posting in a way, but really trying to offer value is what works best for us in getting clients.
You know what I found that was really valuable for us, because everybody's trying to pitch content. I read an article, and this was years ago, like maybe 2017 or 18, that talked about like everybody's trying to pitch content, but very few are pitching a valuable tool, a tool that you can create that people go to. So like an SEO, like it used to be like get your website audit and, something like that people could refer to. But our team created a tool, and it was called Web Style Grabber. There's a bunch of them out there right now. Cool, yeah. So I just had this idea. I said, what could we build like within 2 days that we can get people to link back to? So it was Web Style Grabber, and you paste in a URL, and it pulls all the colors and the images and the fonts and things like that. Yeah. we did that, and it did get us a ton of backlinks. Like that one, that was something like we watched a tactic, we applied that, and now today's world is evolving and changing in like really what SEO is. Like I think it was Rand Fishkin that was saying it's search everything optimization now, like with AI and how do you get within like Gemini and ChatGPT and stuff. But one thing that we are trying right now is using the vibe coding software like Lovable, right?
Yeah.
And so our goal, like we had a meeting and said, we need to create 3 tools that would be relevant to each one of our clients. We did that instead of, if one of them sticks, or if we do like 30 tools within a day and 1 or 2 of them sticks, we can build those backlinks and do that. So those are some of the things that we're trying. But I'm curious, what things are you trying today that you've never tried before a year from now or a year ago?
That's a good one. Like a linkable asset in a way in which it's kind of link bait in a way for journalists, and it is something unique. Those are things that we try to do. We try to do like first party studies, data, statistics that isn't out there or is just really outdated. And sometimes journalists, especially in niche publications, they eat that up.
Yeah.
So that we're doing a lot more of like first party research, publishing with our clients. And then
so you do the surveys, you use there's
platforms that can help with the surveying. Various different ones, like even on a broad level, like SurveyMonkey can help get you right in front of an audience, and it's fairly inexpensive.
So that's to build the surveys, right? But to reach out and actually find that target, do they have tools that help with that? Or
there's like Muckrack, which is an old school journalist platform. There's Press Ranger. There's a few tools that journalists are actively looking for news coverage and things to write about. It's what they need to do. It's their job, and they're also fighting against AI and that right now. So if you can provide them something really unique that they can write about, then they're going to eat it up still. And then there's all content marketing aspects, like you get it syndicated on Reddit. That might also continue to help get it picked up.
So do you have a bunch of contacts with writers and bloggers or whoever to do that you've built? You said you built them over the last 10 years, but do you just have a network that you say, okay, these are the type of people we're going to go to for technology. This is who we're going to go to for business. And
yeah, I mean, at this point, it's a huge Google sheet, but we can filter down by industry type, niche, then contact person, and also like comments about the relationship. Like, is this person really hard to work with? Is it? And I'm sure they have the same thing on us as well. But when we have industry contacts of journalists in a different specific industry, they also know that, hey, we're writing a piece on so-and-so, and we know that you have a client in that area. Would you like to contribute? And there's also services that allow for what's called journal requests, like help a reporter out.
Which is dead now, right?
Just came back like 2 weeks ago at the time of this recording. It got revived, it was acquired by the team of Featured.com, which is actually a pretty cool platform. I'm a fan. It's gotten us in some pretty good publications. They acquired the rights again for help a reporter out. They were all the same kind of purpose. Journalists are looking for quotes and expert opinions on topics.
For sure. There was something else that replaced Help a Reporter Out, right? What's that service?
From Peter Shankman, Source of Sources. Source of Sources, yes.
Yeah, so that's what we started to use, and it felt like the experience was a little bit more robust there from our team using it as far as actually finding that relevant stuff. But it's pretty interesting and nice that Help a Reporter Out is like revived and back up there because it already has all that audience and that,
I mean, it was a great acquisition for Features.com. I would say it's pretty clever on their part. I don't know how much it cost them, but that's what Peter Shankman did with SOS. He kind of revived what was the old school flavor of Harrow, of like the email newsletter coming out a few times per day on the industries that you subscribe to. And if you find one that you like, you can submit a pitch. They can take it. They can ignore it. But there's quite a few services like that now. But Harrow is like the OG.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I've noticed 2 things emerging. Obviously, AI has taken quite a bit of the percentage of search, but there's still like search is still massive as far as Google search and those things.
Yeah.
And so like the things that you can try right now, they're still working, but it's clear. Like we've had clients that have been number 1 on the search position on a very relevant and high volume topic. And we kind of see in Search Console those visits just like drop overnight. And we look and we're still first place, but first place isn't first place anymore. There's the Gemini results that are up there that might have a little link that says we get this source from this place, but nobody clicks on the links, or maybe, 1 in 100, I don't know. But we're right there below, but it just tanks things. And Reddit's done the same thing. I think there was a partnership with Reddit and Google, right? Like, give us all your data, we'll give you a bunch of...
I mean, that second part, that's like red hat, tinfoil hat. But I mean, it's perceived to believe that, yeah.
We get into that kind of stuff here.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of theories, but yes, Reddit has had a lot of favoritism over the last year.
Yeah, we've seen that. Like one of the things that we benefit is when we have multiple clients, multiple search console that are, completely not linked within each other in different industries. When you see that like correlation and things just like drop across, like, okay, something's up. What's going on? And then you start to like Google some things and see the Reddit, and then it's like, how do we game Reddit? How do we get in there and become the source, right?
Yeah, I mean, the telltale sign will usually be impressions will go up. So your URL will be more visible, whether it's a cited source in AI overviews, but clicks will drop down. But yeah, clicks got decreased, like CTRs decreased like 20 to 30% overall in organic search results if there's an AI overview. And those tend to appear for more like top of the funnel informational queries as well. It hasn't hit bottom of the funnel transactional just as much yet at
Not
this
yet.
moment.
They're trying, right? Like even ChatGPT is starting to create like featured products and those things.
And
And I've
that's a
used
whole
it.
mess. Yeah.
ChatGPT has?
Yeah, ChatGPT is
2 weeks ago, they launched shopping GPT within ChatGPT, but it's a mess. There's like no rhyme or reason as to what happens every time you like search not logged in from a incognito. It's just different results every single time.
But that's just the start, right? Like they'll figure some things out. And I had that same experience. I was actually looking for a case for my camera and thought, I can go to Amazon and I can do it that way, but I'm just going to try out this ChatGPT thing, and it would not listen to me. Like I was like, this is too tight. It doesn't fit. I like the soft fabric. And then it like gave me the same results still. So
that's an interesting perspective. So then for some people, maybe their experience with shopping and using AI tools and AI platforms for shopping might have been soured because of the early experiences. So did they drop the ball on consumer experience, and are people really going to change search behavior a little bit? I mean, I don't think we know the answer to that yet.
Well, I think there's not a lot of people that have been exposed to it. Like I, as a consumer, I didn't know about that because I don't keep up on newsletters and things probably like you guys do. But
we're definitely in a bubble.
Maybe it wasn't exposed to the whole consumer world where not enough people had that experience soured for them.
I think you nailed it. I mean, that's a good point. They can do a lot more marketing and show it like a Super Bowl commercial. What can happen when you shop using OpenAI or ChatGPT? Yeah. But then also the question is, do people rely on AI to tell them where to spend their money? I mean, that's just an interesting topic. I mean, I think at this moment we wouldn't. You didn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think savvy shoppers, understand the results they're given and like, okay, wait a minute, let's go back to the old way of things. But I'm sure that's why they roll out some of these features too, to say, what is that experience and what do they, I don't know, what do those conversions look like, I guess.
They're all trying to compete with each other over and over again. Yeah.
But I mean, it seems apparent to me that, as AI grows, there's going to be kind of a shift in that search, and even like transactional searches. I know that like Google and Gemini, even a year ago or more than that, they were starting to showcase like if I want to get a red bicycle, and they ask like follow-up questions and things that kind of hone in on that search. They announced it. I have not seen it, in practice as valuable as they presented those things, but it just seems inevitable it'll get there. And then the question becomes, how do we optimize for that?
I mean, that's been the game of SEO since the beginning. Yeah. Adapt and evolve.
Always adapt.
Have you been aware of SEO in like the late 2000s? Because that was a critical point where you could just spam the crap out of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And rank really well just for throwing your keyword in everywhere, a million times
just stuff
on the page.
Everything everywhere.
And then overnight, Panda the algorithm Panza came out and just wiped businesses clean overnight.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know about that.
So is it just a Google code name, whatever their algorithm?
Yeah, they went after like black and white animals. They have penguin. Then they started getting more like diverse, I guess, in their animal set. They went to like hummingbird. There was a Florida update.
Yeah. So it's just a cat and mouse game. Like as it starts, the Wild West comes in and games and spams everything, and then they say, "Hey, this is threatening the usefulness of search, and what do we do to add more things on there to protect from that?" And it's always been that. And then the SEOs go in, okay, now these changed. How do we go and try to spam this? Or, but it's become a lot more, I guess, ethical, relevant, good content. Like I think because of that, people have like, we've got to just create good content, better content, because, people who try to hang on to that black hat stuff, it's just, they eventually get wiped out. And there are some things that I have seen that you can try up to a certain level that will still possibly rank you, but then you just like get shot down, right?
Yeah, there's definitely still a grayish, black hattish communities in the world of SEO. But I mean, even then, what is considered good content? Would that be subjective in a way? I mean, good content compared to another article.
Time on page, click-through rate, like those things, like there's a blend of those things that help you see what's good and what's not. And I do know, like, even though like we use AI, everybody uses AI for content now, but you can look at that and say, this by itself will never rank. And so there's things that it kind of takes pieces, but it still takes that thought leader, someone to go in and say, okay, these are some great pieces, but I need to expand on that and talk to a way that I know. Like some of the best content that I have found that works that I have written is when I Googled for that content and I did not find something that helped me solve what I was trying to solve. And I had to spend hours trying to solve that. And then I wrote an article on how I solved it. And then that gets like 250,000 views because I just find that gap because I was the one trying to search for that. Have you had experiences like that before?
Yeah, I mean, SEO is very demand based. So you like to look at existing numbers to like justify actions. Like when we work with clients, we kind of need those numbers. But if you're doing it for your own website, then absolutely go to town. If you have a problem that needs to be solved and no one else out there is solving it, very much like your web scraper or the CSS scraper, build it, build a solution and be the one that gets all the credit for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we've been talking pretty technical so far. Like, I want to maybe step back and see like what advice you can give someone who, let's say, we just got a recent client, Stella Rose Jewelry Supply. She does permanent jewelry is like a new trend thing. That's like, if you look up Google trends in permanent jewelry, it was like this in the previous years and then just kind of like spiked up. And Utah is like the biggest market for it out of anywhere. And so I've never heard of it until I talked to her. She's a wholesaler. Basically, there are these women that create these businesses overnight that just go to like bachelorette parties or women's parties in their home, and they make like $600 overnight just making permanent jewelry for women. And so she has this,
like it's on your skin for,
like it's just welded on. Like they get a welder and like they put the charms. It's just like a chain. They put some charms in there.
It's not welded to your skin.
No, but it's welded to like basically you have to break it to take it off your wrist.
Jeez.
So they put it on like and
damn.
So it's I guess like it's emerging stuff, and she's like really skyrocketed in she's used social media. She's gotten into Facebook groups and kind of talked about that. And now like she's empowering all these people who want to just start up, just start up with this retail stuff, just get a booth, get some displays, and they go to these parties. It's kind of like, what are those other parties? The Mary Kay.
Yeah,
Tupperware parties.
Which one are you? Yeah, Tupperware parties.
Which Mary
not
Kay
the parties that you're familiar
subscribe
with.
To?
Yeah, and so now it's look how much you can make doing this and building that education awareness. But now someone taking that says, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this business. We're talking about some very technical stuff that usually at some point, someone like that starts up a new small business has got to kind of take it to here before they can get help from an SEO for the more technical stuff, right? So how do they get from 0 to to hear. What are some of those like high impact, low effort, non-technical things that you would recommend?
This is like going to be the worst sales pitch ever. But sometimes SEO may also not be the right fit for certain people, especially if you're just starting out, because it is expensive. It's also a waiting game. It can take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, especially if you're just starting out. So sometimes SEO might not be the best vertical. And if you have a budget, throw it into paid ads. See exactly what's working, what type of keywords are converting, which aren't. But then from just a one-on-one level, there's tons of free content out there on the web that talk about like how to build a basic foundation of SEO for your website, making sure each page has a very specific purpose, very specific intent, and only that intent is covered on that page. Don't try to have multiple pages covering the same intent. And then just filling everything out as much as you can, having a unique page title that'll also grab someone's eye if they see it in the search results. Just really making good content, like you said, is just the good solid foundation.
Yeah, and this is something, so even with the Stella Rose jewelry supply that, when she talked to me about her growth strategy, it was something that she didn't have the SEO technical foundation, but she had that passion. She wanted to start the business. And, sometimes it does. I would recommend possibly even before creating a website or building those things up, to really get into the social media and post. And if you have to have manual transactions like Venmo me this and we'll work this out. There's some things that you can do to scale to a certain level to say, now this fits. And now I have a need for more of a website. And websites are like increasingly easy to build with like Squarespace, and you can actually rank like very high on Squarespace. Some people discredit Squarespace or Wix or things
They've
like that.
They've come a long way.
They have for sure. But we actually have clients that are using that they have like 10,000 visits a day on there and continue to scale. And there's certain businesses that can scale very well within something like Squarespace or Shopify. But then it's more of like the operational and the inventory, different things that kind of help like break that platform. Yeah. And by that time, you should have grown enough where you could afford a transition into like BigCommerce or something like that, right? So it's, I think that scaling is very transitional as far as, start on Facebook, build a Shopify, and just you don't have to get it perfect the first time.
Yeah, just from like an entrepreneurship standpoint, the second you have the capabilities to delegate, start taking things off your plate, delegate it out, whether it is website management, whether it is social media posts. We all have these thoughts that like, oh, no one can do it as well as we can, but people can do it better, especially if your time and resources are limited.
Yeah, for sure. So at the Founders Dinner, I heard an interesting conversation that you were having with someone sitting next to you about NAN.
Yeah.
It's something that like myself and my team, I'm like, we got to learn everything we can about this thing because it just seems like Zapier on steroids. And this is some of the things like, it's a little bit like the common consensus of like all my teams, like this is technical stuff, and so I have one of our developers is like, I love this stuff. This is really great. But so maybe I can tell you about my assumptions and you tell me like how true these assumptions are based off of what we've seen. But what I've seen is you can have that AI conversation to talk about, what you need, like maybe like what niche you want to research or what industries you want to research, and then where you can go to scrape the web for those things, and then maybe go into LinkedIn or something to find contacts for those information. So you were talking about like outreach, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like what's your outreach technique with NAN and how impactful has that been?
Well, first off, that platform, is not the most user-friendly and it is very technical, but what you can do there, you can do on Zapier, you can do on make.com, that has a bit more of a UX component to it that's easier for newbies to understand. The crazy thing is if you can hook anything up to, like any platform can be connected to a webhook, then you can fetch or send data. And the one specifically I was talking about was an idea that was from an email outreach guy named Alex Berman, that he basically said, have the automation. It starts with a domain. So this is where we started. We enter a domain into a Google sheet, and then 20 seconds later, we have all these cells in a row filled out. It basically goes to Google search site colon, this one specifically was site colon linkedin.com/in, and then the domain name, and then our ICP, which is marketing directors, senior marketers, VP of marketing, CMOs. And then we would scrape and grab the LinkedIn profiles of the top 5 results. Those top 5 results will then get parsed and get sent through AI, OpenAI's API. Which one is correct, accurate, most likely the marketing decision maker, and give me that final one. And then get me their email. Then validate that email to make sure that if we send it out, it will succeed. So that was that one I think I was speaking about.
Okay. And does it actually so the thing that I think is the differentiator when I heard that between like Zapier and NAN, can it actually craft the response and send out the email? Like, can it be like you just run it and you get these responses to see if you want to engage with them?
I mean, technically you could, because then you just connect it to your outbound email platform, whichever one you're doing, whether it's Instantly or Alum List, whatever it might be. You can technically, but as you were saying before, outreach has just gotten so much harder. And I'm sure you guys are getting hundreds of spam emails per day. And you're like wanting to do that same exact thing while you're also deleting everyone else's spam. You really got to send out. And that's where personalized emails.
Well, and this is where you can maybe so I look at like, why am I going to delete this? Why would I not respond back to them? Because, if something clicks with me, we can create a standard operating procedure and say, let's do something like this. One of the ones that I actually responded to, somebody had the subject lunch on us. And then it said, hey, Caleb, we can guarantee you 3 customers in 30 days, or our services are completely free. Something like that. And said, if you have time for a call, we will send an Uber, like Uber Eats will give you Uber Eats credit and you can get lunch. So their cost for someone saying yes and actually having a meeting was maybe $20-$30 or something like that. But for me, I was thinking, yeah, I like free food. I'll try that out. Yeah. Another one is I wanted to see how they could back up that claim. And, it was actually interesting. I did follow through on that, and the way that they backed that up, it was basically, we're going to send you some leads. You have to respond to them within 24 hours. You have to record your response, put it into our Dropbox. We have to evaluate that, and we have to coach you to say, do this and don't do this. And if at any point you don't listen to our advice or we don't see that in the recording, then we're not guaranteeing that anymore.
Even if their advice sucks.
Even if
it goes against your brand values.
So it's totally subjective.
Yeah.
How you
so I was like, that's pretty interesting. And it was interesting that just the psychology and the mechanics of like what they were doing.
That's
just
what it is, psychology,
kind of just learning through all that till I get to the terms. But really interesting stuff. But, the thing is, if you were to create an end-to-end process in Zapier, it'd be very static. If you say like research these people, qualify them, and then send them this canned message, right? But with NAN, can you have some OpenAI or some things that says research their LinkedIn profile, what matters to them, and discover their pain points in this area, and craft a personalized email where maybe a human can go in there and see that and tap yes or no. But another thing is, as far as that goes, you can make it more personalized where you can maybe get higher conversions of responses that way. But then if it's automated, you can still send it to 10,000 people and only get 100 or whatever responses and not waste those man hours, right? So is that a good approach to still do that versus?
Well, you still need to add more layers in between getting the LinkedIn URL and
sure.
OpenAI. Like, you got to get a content extractor, because OpenAI really won't visit the website and extract the contents of it. And then you're also going against LinkedIn's trying not to.
The API won't do that because you can within OpenAI itself, right?
You can. They can visit a profile, but it's hit or miss. Like, you can try to. How many times have you asked ChatGPT, like, visit this website? Nope. Whatever you just summarized for me is not right. Like, why are you lying? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll get it right this time. Here's a new summary. And it still doesn't make sense.
The only time I've seen it be able to do visit a website is if you do deep think.
Deep research is good. Yeah.
Deep research. That's the only time I've seen it actually visit a website and summarize. And
Do they have a deep research API that you
I
can?
think they do now, but also you're thinking about like costs. So you're also, if you're doing thousands of them and you're also testing,
way more than just
hit or miss also, you know, whether it hits or misses and gives you the answers you want. So, I mean, you can throw in, and it doesn't need to be N8N. You can do this with Zapier. You can do this with make.com. Throw in a website content extractor, let it collect in the automation, and then ask OpenAI API against each one of those URLs just to make it a little bit cleaner. And then, you know, at the end of all this, it comes down to email deliverability. You know, that's a whole nother subject matter in and of itself. Either DKIM, DMARC records, SPF records in the email host set up properly. If you just go and start sending emails on a brand new email address right off the bat, you're going to end up in spam. So there's email warm-ups. Like, that's a whole nother discipline in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
So how much do you send out? You talked about that N8N automation that extracts all those emails. What do you use those for in your process?
That's just a lead database. So then I will do.
So do you cold email, or do you try to warm them up first, like you're talking about, or what's the strategy?
I would cold email,
there?
but it's very hyper personalized. Again, I could have AI hyper personalize it, but me as an SEO, there's usually something that I can look at on their website and say, like, this is probably low hanging fruit for you right here.
Yeah.
And I like to include that. And maybe there's also like a lead magnet and a foot in the door offer as well. Like, hey, we have this checklist on how to optimize your Google Merchant Center to appear more in Google Shopping, free listings. It sounds complex, right? Here's the checklist. Do you want us to just do it for you on the house?
Yeah.
And that's how you build relationships. You build trust. And whether somebody says no or yes, then, hey, you want to just like leave us a testimonial if you found value in this?
Yeah. So there's a few strategies that I've tried that work very good. One of them was, like you said, there's things that only like the SEOs can see that maybe, you know, to make it hyper personalized. You know, I have a subject that says your website header is broken. You know, I see, like, as I stretch things, I can see something broke, and then I put a screenshot on there and say, this is broken. We can get in there and just fix this for you. No charge, just want to help you out. Can we do that? From there, we have earned clients from just something just like you just stumble on that and you find it. Another one that I thought, and I might have learned this from Sam O actually, from Ahrefs, but it was like making it personalized within BuzzStream, but to say, hey, we noticed that you're in position, you're on page 3 for this keyword. Would you like to see why competitor 1, 2, and 3 are first, second, and third, and you're on page 3? If so, I made a video for you. Just respond yes, and you can see that.
Yeah.
And so doing that is like,
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'll just do yes, and I'll get that. So we've done that, and then people are like, you know, do you make 300 videos when you send 3 out? No, just when they say yes, you make the video, you put it on Loom, and you just send it to them. But sometimes it really, you have to get into the mind. And again, marketing is just psychology, and what does someone want, and how do you make the barrier to entry super low? But, you know, even Stella Rose, for example, are you familiar with Connect Utah?
I am not.
The Facebook group?
No, I'm not.
It's like 60,000 people of just, they're just service providers, they're small business people that just network with each other and like, hey, I'm in search of this, or, you know, here's this business advice or marketing advice. And so I was talking to my team about like, how can we create a growth engine and kind of use this strategy to grow and see who might want digital marketing and SEO. And from there, you see everybody posting like, want free website audits, you know, and you look and they get like 5 views and they get no engagement, no comments through a community like that. But then you go in and engage with people, like you search digital marketing, you search SEO, and you search for those needs, and you just start having conversations with them. I was telling my team, I said, let's try this and just see if we can search like SEO in here. And we found a post that was 3 weeks old that said, hey, does anybody know anybody that can do SEO for a company? It didn't mention what the company was. And there was 40 responses. This person can help you out. I can help you out. I can do this. And then that person, I know because I've asked for like a handyman on my ranch to help me out. And you're like, how do I filter these 40 people and, to schedule 40 meetings? So it was 3 weeks old. You might assume, she's already picked someone or, it's too old to engage with. But I just direct messaged her and said, I see that you were looking for an SEO company. I'm sure that you're still bombarded and overwhelmed by all this stuff. I'll make a video for you showing what we'll do. If you don't like it, don't respond. But if you do like it, let's talk. Are you interested? She replied, yes. And then I made that video, and within 24 hours, we had a meeting and we closed the deal.
Yeah.
Through there. So it's just that angle of, even that, like, I need an SEO, but I don't want to there's a lot of anxiety even talking to 30 people to say,
especially when you make a post and like you said, like in those 48 hours after making a post in such a big Facebook group, they're getting bombarded with DMs and everything. And they're already like, all right, screw this. I can't deal with this right now. And then you reach back to them weeks later. It's,
it was pretty clever, interesting. Yeah.
So, and you're being real about it too. You're trying to offer value. You're being human. And I think value, that's the biggest one. Like that's how society operates, right? Exchanges of value.
Yeah. And she is, she's a new client. And one thing that I want to ask her eventually, because when I talked to her, she said, it's been really refreshing the way that you explain things and make it easy to understand. I asked her if she had any questions, and she said, honestly, no, not really. She said, it's been really refreshing. I've talked to like 4 other companies, and she's gotten 4 other proposals. And she said, it was hard to understand some things, but one thing that I want to do for myself, just for that competitor analysis, to look at and say, for us, I wonder how most SEOs, if they say, we'll focus on these 3 keywords, we'll give you 4 articles a week or whatever. For us, we're a little bit more results driven, where we say, this is our initial like operating procedures and what we plan. But if it doesn't work, we're going to pivot, and we'll meet once a month. And it's basically selling the hours, which can be tough to create standard operating procedures on something that pivots so frequently. Yeah. So how do you manage that to scale, to like educate your team? Because I'm sure you have 1 or 2 people in a team that are the strategy and the thought leaders, and okay, this is what we're going to do, but you have to have someone on the team that just follows those instructions, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing you can't really have an SOP for is the critical thinking. Everything else, like all of our other processes, our deliverables, our audits, our templates, when it comes to just even communicating with third parties, clients, you can have, but you can't. That and like soft skills are just 2 things that you can't necessarily put into an SOP. But everything else, for the most part, when it comes to SEO, as a service provider, you should be able to make everything as predictable as possible. If you pivot frequently, then it probably makes things a little bit harder. I guess if you pivot at least like with quarterly notice, probably makes things a little bit easier. We don't sell hours. We work on a retainer model. Behind the scenes, we know how long things take.
Well, and that's what I mean by selling by hour. Like it's still the retainer model, but we estimate and bucket like what are we going to do this month?
Yeah,
and allocate those things. And sometimes it's more or less, but it still balances. So we don't basically say for these hours it's this. It's more of the measurements and the results. This
value-based pricing. Yeah. Yeah, and we pivot. I mean, you nailed it. SEO, sometimes you do things and you're like, this is going to kick ass. This is going to work so well. And then months later, you're like, it didn't work at all.
And it does for 80% of the industries. And then you find that one industry where you're like, it's just not taking it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then you do need to be swift. You need to pivot certain strategies. You need to come up with new ideas, or else, I mean, at the end of the day, what value then are you providing to the client? If you can pivot a strategy, create new opportunities for them to scale and grow, then I'm not saying you're not doing that. I believe you. I believe you very much are. I was saying, for like the generalist, you get SEO agencies that still suck.
Yeah, for sure.
Just provide very crappy service, or it's a line item in a much larger retainer, like full service agencies that do it all.
Yeah. What do you think about the white labeled SEOs that go and like they market themselves and then they go and pay for all these?
Do I have
services?
A gripe with white label SEOs?
Go ahead.
I was never a fan of white labeling, us being the service provider, where there's a middleman and then there's a client. Because we've worked with some really awesome brands that I can't even share that we've worked with because they weren't our direct client.
Yeah.
And then there's a middleman in between the relationship where we try to educate the middleman. Then we got to hope that the middleman can then re-educate the client. It's a game of broken telephone. And then if
they're not going to tell them something that maybe the fault it lies with them, so they're not going to like relay that.
Relay the information. Like it's easier to educate you on your expectations, and then it'll be harder for you to have to relay that expectations into Garrett. It's like, yeah. So if we can educate our points of contact and our decision makers directly, like if we lose a client, we want to be responsible for it. Versus like some middleman who couldn't retain a client. So yeah.
So that's something you just don't do anymore, or
we never really did it. We had a partnership with a really awesome branding and design agency that we still very much work with, just in a different capacity. And they were white labeling some really awesome projects with us. And it just was really hard because we're trying to get buy-in to the people that aren't asking for buy-in. So we have to educate them on how to ask their client's point of contact to ask for buy-in internally from other departments, from leadership. It just adds a lot more complexity. And we're a hyper-personalized service. We're real. We're also like, we don't sugarcoat things either. So it's just easier for us, and we just enjoy the relationship more when we can be accountable for the success and the failures.
So what are the primary reasons that a client decides not to continue working with you?
It could be various different things. With us, no, it never happens. But with another SEO agency,
my friend has a problem.
Yeah, it can be various different things. I mean, I like to say there's two different types of SEO agencies. There's an SEO agency that can do really great SEO, but they suck at communication. They suck at providing really good feelings and customer experience. Then on the other side, you have like full service agencies that are awesome at customer experience, but they can't deliver on SEO results. So either side of the coin on that instance might be a case where a client might leave an agency if SEO isn't working out. Like you can have SEO success. A lot of SEO agencies like to complain, like, why did they leave us? We got them so much rankings, look at their revenue and stuff. But the client then tells us when they come our way, we just didn't know what they were doing. And my boss would ask me, what is the SEO agency doing? And I couldn't really answer that to them. So that is
a huge issue. That I think that's the number one with a lot of agencies out there, that lack of communication. And even saying, like, if you send a report, if things are so technical and they don't know how to understand or read a lot of those things. And so it is that relationship and getting on and meeting with them, discussing those things. And that's one thing that I tell a lot of our clients is the correlation of what we're able to do for you and the success that we have depends on the frequency of making these meetings and relying on those, because some people are just like, I don't have time for that. The reality is they're uncomfortable with, like, they don't understand SEO. And there was someone on my team said, we are breaking records in growth for this client. Look at this. And I said, yeah, they're still going to fire us because we don't have that communication. They're not making the meetings. And so, no matter whose fault it is that the communication isn't good, if they're not, it doesn't matter. They're the ones that are paying the bill and decide. But we have found, especially for the smaller businesses, the service-based businesses that we do SEO for, some of these teams, it's really hard for people to scale from their team of one that's doing anything from electrical to plumbing and things to 2 or 3 teams to maintain things. So they feel like they're at capacity with something. And then it's like, well, our 12 months are up and I'm doing more work than I can handle. And, it's not like we lose what you've built for us if we pause or stop right here. So, that depends on the types of clients, I guess, that you have, because there's some companies that are built to scale and they've solved that problem. Like people say, it's like, it's really hard to go from 0 to 1 million, but from going to 1 million to 3 million, like, takes that standard operating procedure and scaling and delegation and stuff like that. Have you faced that, or do you not work with those smaller types?
We don't work with them, but that's just like the curse of like the entrepreneur and like ego and stuff. Like, hey, if you're willing to take a reduction of the amount of money you're taking in to bring in someone else to take half or a quarter of the things off of your plate, that sets you up to scale. You're less things to worry about. You're not going to be great at everything. You're half-assing everything anyways. So whether it's, again, working with an agency or a marketing partner, just take a little bit less of a salary or profit distribution in the beginning, bring someone in, delegate, and then you have more time, and in due time, you will come out with more money.
Yeah, and I think, part of that could be ego, but part of it could be, it does have to get rockier before it gets better. Like, can I trust them to work with my clients and to, there's a lot of that where maybe you have to be okay with a reduction of quality for a minute and figure those things out as they happen.
I think that's normal, right? Though any new hire in any organization, you have that 90-day window to get
micromanage and
I hope not, but I hope not micromanage. But yeah, people, especially if they join a new organization, they're going to need some time to just build that foundation, learn the new brand's way of doing things, and maybe a reduction in quality, or there doesn't have to be a reduction in quality. Let's say, okay, this person shadows me for the next 3 jobs if they're an electrician. Okay, now I'll shadow you while you work with this client. That can be a good onboarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. So maybe I'll talk to you a little bit more about HubHive and what Garrett and I are building. And it'd be nice to get your feedback and input on, how this works with marketing and some of the strategies that we're trying to implement. So there's, a lot of people, especially with like service-based businesses, they'll go to like Angie.com or to Thumbtack, and they'll use a marketing platform where they don't have to necessarily understand the mechanics of marketing. They just add their business, they get some reviews, they say, these are the services that I have. And then they like pay for those leads that come in, and it's structured. People search. There's a form that qualifies them.
Yeah.
And the business, like one thing that I like about Thumbtack that they've done recently is the business can say, these are the types of jobs I don't want and the hours that I don't want. And to help, so when that lead comes in, it only aligns with exactly what you do. But I've seen, because a lot of people do use groups like Connect Utah or different communities where, people know each other, they're talking to each other, they're in a group-based application, but there's always the in search of this, or I'm selling this, I'm offering this. And a lot of those things like don't make the algorithm cut. Like, it's more of the informational, there's informational, but there's also just the garbage addictive videos and content, the controversial stuff that kind of get up there that grow engagement. But what I find is people go into these types of communities and they say, I'm searching for this. And then they have that problem of maybe getting bombarded by like 40 vultures of like, I can do this, or, and then like, how do I qualify? What do I do here? They can go into Thumbtack and they can search for those things, and they get more structured leads and things that are maybe a little bit more qualified, but it's still from people they don't know, or they don't know the friends of the friends that referred them. And so one of our ideas and what we've been building this for a year. We've launched it in a closed beta it's been about 3 months now. We have about 200 daily active users in it right now, and we're still like there's so much we've got to build that it's like a little bit clunky. But our vision is that we can take those same types of communities like Connect Utah or other groups to be in a platform where if they post in search of this, because of the world of AI, it can go on there and scrape this. This looks like a title. This looks like this. And it'll go and structure that and say, based on past inquiries of this and based on your specific needs of needing a ceiling fan installation or whatever, here are 3 companies that I recommend that's in our system that does this, this, and this. But it's the same as taking those 40 comment recommendations and having your assistant say, go and meet and qualify with all these people and give me the 3 that I want. But now AI can kind of do that based off of the past data or inquiries to kind of collect
frequency of mentions, I guess.
Yeah, so frequency of mentions, but also like who actually hired them and what was their review based on that. And we call it, because our app is HubHive, we have this Hive trust score that's like, what does the community say? Like, what's the relevancy based on your needs in the community and what they're saying? But also having a shop or a services tab where they can tap and search and have that same kind of Thumbtack experience within there, but it's within communities. So it'll even say like Garrett used them 2 weeks ago, where I can maybe even like, oh, you use them for your electrical, and have that conversation with him on, would you use them again? But
or do you secretly work for them?
secretly work for I know. And that's where like, you know, we're going to have that same cat and mouse game with the algorithm as far as like who's gaming that and what are they trying to do. But I think and the hope is that there are these small businesses that, you know, we have businesses that make chocolates for Valentine's or that make their own like fermented juice and things like that they're offering, but also these service-based businesses, people who build shelves in garages and I'll build you this for $800, like those types of things. They get in there, but they're like, I don't know how to market other than like spamming the groups and saying, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. But how do we kind of give them a place to be discovered within communities that if somebody just went into services and typed in like shelf installation, they can just find that list. And, you know, if you're a community of 100 people and, you know, you probably know this as much as anybody, but we all have our circle of relatives and friends or whatever. And, you know, if we know 1,000 people, we probably only know what 100 of them are actually doing or how they can help align with our needs. And so we might be searching for something that we actually have a friend of a friend, you know, 20 people that we could reach out to. We just don't know that exists. And that's some of the things we're trying to solve.
That's interesting. It's like LinkedIn connections plus the same type of things that might be posted in Facebook groups and like community neighborhoods. And then adding that trust factor is cool. I think also like creating awareness about the Facebook group scams. You know what I'm talking about when it comes to like blue collar services?
Haven't heard of that.
Brands that sell leads, like lead gen to plumbers, electricians.
They go in there and
enter Facebook groups. Say, does anyone know a good garage door repairman? Yes, I do. Hit up this brand or this phone number. But then there's another person that shows up. I guess maybe not a scam per se, but it's like lead gen agencies that have just built trust and are joining so many platforms.
So they're talking to themselves, like they post and then they respond on another. Okay, I never heard about that.
Yeah, I see it in my neighborhood Facebook group all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I know this person just created a Facebook profile like a month ago. But I mean, creating awareness is like the antithesis of Facebook group problems. Could be also a good play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's a good angle. I think, you know, that's the biggest struggle is, you know, there are many people like, you know, for every one company that succeeds, there's 99 that fails, or I don't know what the exact metric is, but it's just, it's really hard to stick with it and go, right? And it's not that these companies don't have a unique value or, you know, that they aren't the best. I think a lot of them just don't know the marketing mechanics and the different things. There's still so many people that are just absolutely good at what they do, but they just don't know how to get those things out there. And so us being in the SEO space, we've always, you know, once you're at a certain level, let's take you and let's grow to this. But we've had, you know, so many friends and family of like, what do you do to market this or what do you do? And you almost like, you know, we can educate you. And once you get to this point, you can work with us. But it's just so much work, and that's not why they get into business. It's like they get into business because they love it, but they don't know how. Like, and so, you know, I've felt and thought for a long time, like, how do we kind of match those needs and opportunities? And especially, you know, when everybody starts a business, they start with their friends and family. Would you buy this, or can I do this for you? You know, those things where it's like, you know, if you get 99% conversion rate from your top 10 friends, that's because they're your 10 friends, you know, and now try scaling that. But I think this platform could scale that a little bit still to kind of bring them, you know, a little bit to that stage to where, you know, our hope is that we can turn that, instead of like 99% failure or whatever it is, that we can get, you know, 20 or 30 more of those people to a certain edge to where they can kind of crack it and say, okay, now we're ready to play in the big world.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
So, yeah, exciting stuff. So, if you have anything you want to say to our audience, if there's, you know, as far as Break the Web and what you offer and what types of clients you're looking for, services you offer, now's your time.
I'll say SEO is not dead. It's not going anywhere for the millionth time. Other than that, really, we just help D2C, B2C brands just take all the nuances and jargon away from SEO and make it easier so that they can pass information easy and wins easily to their leadership team. So
Awesome. This has been fun and I've learned a lot. So it's like you said in the founders dinner, it's nice to geek out with people that,
that's
that
exactly
love the
why I
same
left the
stuff
house.
as-
Yeah. Just to hang out with people who get it. And
Yeah, I talk about this kind of stuff, like even with my wife, and she's like,
Yeah.
that's cool.
she's like nodding her head because she's like, oh, he's cute because he's passionate about it, but I have no idea what he's saying.
Here's one of the honest truth. That's how I feel. I'm left out of this conversation. Just geeked out the whole time. Just
It's like you talking about sports.
when is this over?
Then I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I don't know anything about sports.
Yeah, I'm like, I go to dinner with him and another friend, and I'm just sitting there like, I thought we were friends.
Well, now I know how it feels. I guess.
Yeah, what's funny is, so I'm into UI UX design. We're designing our own software, our own social media app. And the other night I was laying in bed and I was like, man, I have so many thoughts running through my head right now. And my wife was, she just sat there silent, like, do I dare ask him? And so I'm like, I guess they're going to stay running in my head because
No sleep tonight.
And so she's like, all right, what are you thinking? I'm like, I'm trying to think about how I set up tokens and variables so that I can have semantics, like plug in the semantics of these numbers so that our developers can use those tokens to develop easier and more efficient. And then if I create variants within the components and do this, I go on for like 5 minutes.
She's like, mm-hmm.
And then I pause and she's just sitting there. And we both just start busting out laughing. She's like, I don't understand a word of what you're saying. But
I mean, it's good to have a support system like that, though.
yeah.
Like, who lets you be you?
Yeah, it was good. It was like relieving.
It's way better than it running through my mind.
At least she listened. But yeah, it would be cool to create a community like this. Like, there's Online Geniuses. Have you seen that community?
Yeah, I actually grew up with the founder, David Markovich.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm from New York originally.
Wow.
And we were childhood friends just running amok on the streets, like a bunch of hoodlums. And then as we got older, he started Online Geniuses. I know he sold it. I know he's no longer part of it. But I was actually never in that group. It was just too much. Like you're talking about a Facebook group of 60,000 people.
Yeah.
That's already too much. Like I'm part of other Slack communities, more niche. There's some that I'm part of that there's no way of just keeping up to what's going on. Some might have like alerts if somebody mentions SEO, then I'll get like pinged about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, communities are awesome, and finding communities like in your niche and things that you love. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to even have like a smaller community. Like I've had a meetup for designers that I've created, and the meetups are awesome because you get like 10 or 20 people in the room and you talk about the things that like just, you want to talk about that your normal friends and family, they have no idea about. But yeah, it's just really cool having these types of conversations of, where is SEO going? How can you like help adapt to, the things that are tanking the results or increasing the results? How do you amplify those things? It's
I mean, there's definitely SEO communities. I think it's even harder to find probably like entrepreneurship communities.
Oh yeah.
Because the entrepreneur road is very lonely. And finding people who can really relate to the emotional roller coaster that you have on a daily basis, they're like, fuck it, I'm going to get a full-time job, just forget all this. And then they're like, okay, this is working, like the imposter syndrome and stuff. Finding people who can relate to that is even more challenging.
Well, and even the description of entrepreneur, like there was a debate about like what is an entrepreneur, and is it someone that's working for yourself in a service-based business, or is it like someone that's starting and building something new that's, there's different challenges within what people call an entrepreneur too. That's, is like I was telling Garrett, we started our own Hive. I think it was like Forging Founders. And, I was telling him, even if it was 4 or 5 people, I want people in here that are actually like major tech and social media savvy and these things, not just people who have their own businesses, built their own businesses, but don't know what the heck we're doing in terms of like scaling and growth strategies and, what's the go-to-market strategy for a software as a service business, and how do you get investment, like things like that.
I think that's even more valuable than a community. You have 5 people, then you don't have a community. You have a mastermind. People that will also hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Too. A lot of power behind that.
Sometimes, like it's small enough, you meet people in person, that they can carry their weight, that they, they understand those things. And there's a lot of things that I like to brag about too, in terms of like our daily active users and what type of engagement, or we got this click-through rate, or things that most people wouldn't understand. And they're like, yeah, good job, dude.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice, like sometimes people to understand it and get feedback and stuff would be awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great having you on the podcast. This is exciting stuff, and we'll have this out in about a week.
Sounds great, Caleb. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you
For coming in.